Welcome to the Books and Martinis podcast.
I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy.
And this is your go-to book podcast,
where we lift, empower, and spotlight authors.
Grab your martini and follow along.
And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
Hey, book lovers. This episode of Books and Martinis is brought to you by our wonderful sponsors. Blue Box Media, you dream it, we produce it. And Travel with Samantha Cividanes, specializing in luxury cruises. Ooh. Their support keeps the stories, authors, and conversations flowing. Don't forget to visit them and support the brands that support this podcast. Now the martinis are poured, let's get into the episode. What's up, everyone? Welcome to our podcast. I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy. Welcome, everybody.
And welcome to Andre Santana.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Welcome,
Cheers.
Andre. Cheers, cheers. So happy to have you.
Salud. So, on the screen and in your ears is the amazing narrator, voice actor, performer, Andre Santana.
Man of many hats. We cannot wait to learn all about you, Andre.
Yes. Yes, we're so excited to have you. Okay, so let's kick it off with your bio, and then we'll get straight into the questions because we have lots to talk about.
Love it.
All right, so Andre Santana is a New York-based audiobook narrator bringing fresh perspectives and human performances. His style brings heart and truth to audiobooks, where he's narrated over 250 titles, including New York Times bestsellers, Audie finalists, Airphone winners, and more. Born in Brazil, yes, and raised in Seattle, this Black and non-binary voice actor has narrated for celebrated authors like Kaysen Callender, Brian Washington, Aidan Thomas, and Chuck Tingle. Welcome, Andre Santana.
Thank you
Amazing.
for having me. So excited.
And that's a very short bio. We could have talked about you all day. We had like bios galore.
I was on your website. I'm like, wow, this is a great bio, but I can't say all this. He needs to talk about himself.
Yeah.
Everybody's always talking about SEO, and so whenever someone asks for a bio, I'm like, okay, let me change like 2 sentences. What can you say about this, or this? So
Sure. Yeah, that's a busy and successful career. So of course there's a lot to say. But tell us about you. It's time to learn more about you.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny being here in like the audiobook world and doing this work because it's not what I expected for myself and not like what I planned for my life in any way. I have a degree in psychology and biology.
What?
Wow.
The plan after college was like, I'm going to go to graduate school. I'm going to like study social psychology. I'm going to like teach in that space. And then didn't get into the PhD programs I applied to, ended up working in like DEI and higher education, and just kind of like drifted towards New York from there. Like I was recruiting teachers for a charter network when I started narrating audiobooks. So it just kind of snuck up on me. It was a really surprise love that like just like arrived in my life. Yeah.
Were you
How
a
did this
reader?
sneak up on you? Oh.
Yeah. Well, so for so long I wasn't. Like I read a lot in college, but it was all things that were being assigned to me in classes. And so I got so burned out from doing that. And when I had graduated, one of my friends recommended this book to me called The Bone Witch. And she actually worked in like TV and film development. And she had read that book and she was like, oh, I love it. We want to like acquire this book. It's so beautifully like described and written, etc. And I saw how thick the book was, and I'm like, I'm never going to make it through that book. Like, I'm so sorry. But I got the audiobook from the library, and that just, like, clicked back in. I, like, from fall 2019 into the spring, I listened to, like, 60 audiobooks. I was burning through Libby. I was buying things on Libra. Like, I fell in love with listening and reading again. And then, like, right as the pandemic happened that spring, I stumbled on ACX, which is, like, the back end of Audible, where independent authors and narrators connect to produce audiobooks. Did one that year as kind of like a hobby thing in the background. And then once I got into the second one, it just kind of all, like, spiraled from there. And so now I do it full time. Like you said, over 250 books in, and I just really love it. Yeah.
Wow.
You
from
must, because you're good at it.
Yeah, from educator to narrator. That's just a wild twist.
Yeah, absolutely,
I love
absolutely.
that.
And it's so funny, like when I was working at that charter school, there's so much that teachers learn about like speaking and language and like emphasizing specific words to make sure you're grabbing people's attention. And I think in a lot of ways, almost everything is a kind of storytelling. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
teachers in class, like that is part of what they're doing. They're delivering information. They really want you to focus in on certain things. Even when I was like doing DEI work, like part of what I was doing when I was working in higher ed there was like helping undergraduate students who like maybe came from a background where their parents didn't really know how to put together a resume, for example. And a student putting together a resume to try to fit it to like get them a specific kind of job, also a form of storytelling. It just always finding information, understanding the lens, presenting, and it's just my favorite thing. I'm a video gamer. I love anime. Like stories in all forms are absolutely precious to me.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. I love
And,
that for you.
and what's your favorite genre to narrate?
Oh.
I'm just wondering because you're mentioning anime and video games, so I'm thinking
Hmm.
sci-fi. I'm devouring Dungeon Crawler Carl right now, so
I'm
that's what I'm
oh my
thinking of.
god. My neighborhood book club, which is typically very like Emily Henry and like
Uh-huh.
historical fiction about baking, etc. Their August book is Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm already a super fan of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I just listened to book 8. I went back to
Oh,
book
Oh,
1.
you
he's on
always.
eight.
Oh
All the
my
way.
God.
And then I went back to book 1 last month to re-listen for my book club, and
Yeah.
since then I've re-listened all the way through book 7. So I'm halfway through
Oh,
book 7.
snap.
I love Dungeon Crawler Carl. And like precisely that, like I have decided for myself, because I think genre doesn't tell me as much about a book as like the writing style does, right? Like
Mm.
Yeah.
I've seen I've seen nonfiction books that are written where like they'll take transcripts from court cases and they'll write it out like it's a mystery novel, but it's all like the same specific quotes from the court cases. Or like sci-fi where it's like really beautiful and quiet and it feels like literary fiction. And like I love that dynamic nature about like books in particular.
Mhm.
And so more so than I shake it up sometimes when I ask for different genres, but more so than asking for genre, I ask for like one of the things I've said before is like books that remind me what it feels like to be human, or like
Mm.
books where like a love story goes wrong, or like there are just I think other ways, structures like found family, like different things that will tell me more about how much I'm gonna love a book than
Mm.
necessarily the genre. Because the genre, I'm all over the place. I do all the genres. I narrate whatever they'll pay me to narrate. You know what I mean? But
Sure,
like,
sure.
but it's the writing piece that I really fall in
You're
love with.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And in the book world, you're asked a lot that same exact question. I
Yeah,
always say, it's about the plot and
yeah,
about the storytelling more than anything else, because you could really be into a fantasy book or a historical romance, which I'm not a fan of, but oh my God, there's some beautiful ones out there that you can't put
Yep.
down.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Even thinking about Dungeon Crawler Carl just now, like. I've been so stressed. Like I'm like, oh, my book club isn't gonna like this book. Like it's just not gonna be their vibe. And so I'm really thinking like, what about this book do I enjoy? And I keep realizing like, oh, first and foremost, this is a political drama. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a book about humanity and
Mm-hmm.
survival, and it's so similar to, like in terms of core message, like the Hunger Games. And I know
Mm-hmm.
this like book club loves the Hunger Games, so it's just interesting. It's so fascinating
It's
how.
so brave to put it into a book club
Yeah. Oh, I'm
because I
excited
Yeah.
about
thought
it.
about it.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great
I
Because our
discussion.
book club is like that. They like the crime and the thrillers and all those
Mm,
types of
Yes,
books.
mm,
they've done all the Emily Henrys and all that kind of stuff,
mm.
But the
and all
minute I
the
bring up fantasy and sci-fi, they're like, oh, I
Oh,
don't
it's
know.
so, and it's interesting too because like romantasy is huge, but then there are like
right,
contemporary romance people who are like, I'm not gonna do it. I can't cross into that realm.
Hmm.
right.
And I feel like, oh, there's so many books out there hidden behind the mask of a genre that people would love. I really feel that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely. And genres like thankfully there's subgenres, right?
Mm,
But genres just like pigeonhole a book.
yeah,
But
yeah.
books can be so much more. Like we have one author that wrote a book that's out in space with elves and trolls and all these fantasy elements, but it's like this mosh pit of the two genres, and it works.
I
It
love it.
works. You
I
know what I
love it.
mean? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it that you're a crawler. Yay!
Yeah.
That's so great. So you read 8? Is 8 out?
8 came out earlier this year. I've already listened. So in my re-listen, I'm like halfway through 7 right now. Yeah, yeah.
So it is all that.
8, 8. I think
It's
was my favorite in
worthy
the
of it.
series. Yeah,
No
Wow.
kidding.
yeah. I
I,
kind of go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I kind of drifted through number 7 a little bit last time because it's so dense because so much has to be resolved in book 7,
Mm.
and re-listening now, I'm like, oh, this is the juice. Like this is where the meat of the story is. Like so much gets set up here. So yeah,
Oh, I love it. I
And are
love
you
it.
listening or reading it?
listening. I'm
Hmm.
a big
Reading.
listener. Yeah, I
Hmm.
basically don't read unless I'm narrating the book. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm a listener too.
Mm,
Yeah. So it makes all the difference.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
I really, okay.
And
Now I'm
there's
really.
a production deal for it too.
Oh, I don't I know it. Oh
Ah!
my goodness.
Tell
Uh,
us what you know about it. I know nothing of it.
It looks like Seth MacFarlane, who's done like Family Guy and
Wow.
American
Yes.
Dad, has picked it up and gotten it greenlit at Paramount Plus for a TV series. Yeah, and right
Ooh.
now the big drama is that the number one person that fans want cast as Carl
Yes.
is the son of the actor who played Kronk in The Emperor's New Groove, because in book 1, the audiobook voice is based off of him. It's based off of Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. So Patrick Warburton
Really?
is that actor. He ends up being, it's so specific and such a specific like voice reference that he ends up being a guest in the 5th audiobook. He comes back in the 5th audiobook. And now his son, who sounds a lot like him and is about Carl's age, and is, ripped to shreds and loves the series, etc. Everyone's like, oh, we want him to play Carl in the TV show.
Oh, I have to look that
Ooh.
up. I had no idea. See,
Yeah.
I'm a
A
new
whole
crawler.
fan base. And you're just literally,
I'm a baby crawler.
just learning to crawl.
So, that also leads me to a question. So, is there a narrator or author or voice that you look up to?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. One of the things that's really fun about Dungeon Crawler Carl is, of course, the narrator Jeff Hayes, who like really masterfully performs. He does a lot of voices and like he really leans into it. I think of there being kind of a triangle of philosophies of narration. One is this belief that like you should not add anything to the text. The text does all the work. And so the
Mhm.
delivery is going to be very straightforward. One pulls a lot from like theater and stage, and so there's, I think, a real like enjoyment about delivering the language and delivering the text, and I think it might really feel almost like a Shakespearean delivery. The other one, which I think is more in the direction of like types of narration that I really love, is this idea that it's you would perform an audiobook in the same way as if you were asked to deliver that line on camera. And so, whether
Mm.
that's like projections and shouting, whether that's like character voices or accents or all these different kind of layers and components, like it's that kind of approach and trying to curate that vibe. And Jeff does it wonderfully. There's a lot of really tactful and well used audio editing in the book that makes it a great experience. I love folks like Helen Laser. She did Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, one of my favorite audiobooks. Will Always Stand, the Project Hail Mary audiobook. Ray Porter, what a performance. January Lavoie, I think, is a legend. One of my favorite books of hers is called The Change by Kristen Miller, which is like a group of older women have this almost like middle age life kind of like reflection period, but it's about true crime, and there's like a murder that's happened in their town, and there's like a fantastical twist to it. And January, like all these narrators that I love really know how to like identify the vibe of the book and bring it all together. Because one thing for us as audiobook narrators, we typically don't have directors. It's just
Mm.
us alone in the booth
Right.
recording solo.
I thought you all like the big, like like yourself, all the big narrators had directors and
No,
producers.
no, no, no. Like
Oh,
there's certain companies that will give you a director, and there's certain companies that will maybe put you in studio, but most books that we do will typically be alone and at home.
oh
And so
wow.
when you're hearing a lot of these folks, like the narrator is the director, we're making these decisions about like what's the pace, what's the beat, like how are these characters feeling about each other, what part of the subtext
Mm.
are we like delivering through voice, etc. And I direct audiobooks too, and even when we have directors, the director is really like a support system. It's not like a um oh my gosh,
A
what like a
true director telling you what to
yeah,
do.
exactly. Like it's not like a like this is Wes Anderson. Like when Wes Anderson directs, it's going to feel like this. It's like they're going to help
Mm.
you make sure that you correct any mistakes that you said. They'll point those out. They'll have talked to the author probably and help with pronunciations. Like they're kind of there as a support more so than like this is the big picture and we're following my vision and dream. Unless it's a huge multicast project and every narrator has such a little part that the director is the glue holding them all together. But yeah, for the most part, it's narrators who are really creating the vibe. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
That is a lot. Sure, you're wearing every hat.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
aside
Yeah.
from that, you're every character,
Every I love it. I love it.
Right? Like
Yeah.
Princess
right?
Donut.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
You're
So
the alien, the human, and the cat.
yeah. So how are you on multi-voice, multi
Mm.
POVs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you have a voice or an accent that's your favorite?
Ooh. So I did this book called Toto, which was a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, but from the perspective of Toto the dog.
Huh? Cool.
And in it,
How had I not heard of that book?
oh my god, no, it's so fun.
That's so cool.
And in that book, there's a crow who is like he's basically like a communist leader, and he's going around towns like telling people about the revolution. And if I can remember, hi, I'm Crow. Like, have I told you the good word about the revolutionary? Like, it's just like a fun, like high pitched voice, like
How funny.
stuff like that. Like, I like playing with range, and so
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
typically I can go like I might be able to go deeper, for example, or like play older characters and do different things like that.
Mhm.
And I love, there's been a lot of books where I've gotten to play, particularly like 45-year-old, like older black men and these very kind of like, just very energetically specific tales. And there's something I love about being able to sit in that space and it's like something like just being able to sit down here and
Mhm.
really sitting with this. And this is actually a lot of the way that I sound when I narrate the James Baldwin book that's coming up soon. But I love being able to use different parts of my voice and do accent work and create characters and move around because I feel like that's the purpose of performing. That's the reason that we are sitting here behind the mic. You know, we are alone often, but it's the storytelling and the play, right? That is the most fun, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
That
you're
was hot, Andre.
fascinating.
I have a pseudonym too, you know?
Oh, you're fascinating. That is so interesting. And do you get into the characters so deeply that you have to kind of shake them off
Oh my
to go
gosh.
on about your day
Are
because you
you
kind
are
of
you
stay
talking
there?
like with that accent all day? Like
It
really low.
so like with this book, so this was James Baldwin's final novel that he wrote before he passed away called Just Above My Head. And it's the longest book I've ever done. It was 22 hours long.
Mm,
And so, yeah, every day I was talking that low. And so at the end of the day, I have to do warm ups to kind of like bring my voice back up out of it. But my voice
hmm
would still kind of just like be sitting there down there for the rest of the day. Um, it's funny, more so than like the voice work. I think there are some books that are like so heavy, so marking that what I really have to do is like put the emotional baggage back,
Yes.
right? At the end of the day
Yes.
and like take a walk, drink some water, like really leave behind the character in the way that someone who commutes home from work gets to leave the office, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your voice has so much to do with, especially in the world we're in now, where we listen to everything, has so much to do with bringing that character to life. I just finished Theo of Golden,
Mm,
and it was this older Theo is 80 years old and he's Portuguese. He's Portuguese.
Mm.
Portuguese, yeah.
And, yes, and his accent, I could just see him just by the way that they're narrating him, the way that they speak, the way that he speaks, and how he goes from that deep voice to the high tone when he's in
Mm.
trouble, like towards the end of the book. And it's like,
No
Yeah.
wow.
spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah.
No, that's it. I'll stop there. But oh my God, but the narrator is, I don't want to say is as important as the author because clearly the author created the piece, but it's just there's something about the narrator that brings that vision to life.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
it's just
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
When
Beautiful.
we get to live, so for me, like, I've been doing this for a long time. If there's one finished hour of an audiobook, like the amount you actually listen to, it probably took me about 2 hours to record it. And so if we're doing a 10-hour audiobook, that's our week. Like that's what we're doing that week.
Wow, sure.
And so there are so many folks who like they really do love to dive into the character and the story like that. And there's one of my friends, her mother is an author, Julia Claiborne Johnson, who wrote this novel, Better Luck Next Time. And it's based off, I think, her father or her grandfather's real life story, but it's about a divorce ranch in Reno because it was in the 1940s or 50s. The only place in the country you could get divorced was in Reno, and you had to be a resident. And so you would live on this ranch for 7 weeks until you hit the residency window. And
I
so
heard
this
about that.
man works at this ranch, and he's telling the story from when he's like 70, looking back. And so this narrator, David Aaron Baker, like sits into this character, and Julia, the author, said that her favorite part about listening is that he's so stoic, and there's just this one moment where you hear this crack in his voice near the end when it all really gets to him, and it just shattered her. I I,
Mm,
I love being able to like create a world like that because
hmm.
the book itself is a piece of art, right?
Right,
The author has done so
right.
much work with it, and then we get to come in and like reinterpret. Like we get to it's
You
own
elevate
artistic
it.
product, right? Yeah, yeah.
You bring the whole
Beautiful.
thing to life, and I kind of feel like narrators are so sometimes okay. Sometimes I love having on the narrators more than the authors. I confess. I'm sorry, because I've we listen to so many audiobooks, and
Mhm.
you're hearing and imagining the main characters through the narrator. So it's like we're fanning out. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah,
like you're
yeah,
the star,
Yeah.
and it's like flying close to the sun. You know what I mean? It's like you're not the author, which is the sun, but you're that close to it, and you're bringing the whole thing to life,
yeah.
and it's just magical. And it makes a reading more enjoyable. It's a movie playing in your head now and in your heart because you're just feeling whatever the narrator's putting out.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
Did
absolutely.
you find, Andre, that well, did you have a mentor?
Ooh, I had so many
That's a great
mentors.
question.
I was really fortunate in this regard. I came in around 2021, like really came into the industry and not just like recorded one thing.
Mhm.
And it was a time when there were a lot of, as the pandemic was happening, and typically what was a lot of studio work in New York went virtual and they were having more home records, it really opened up the doors and people were also listening more, so production went up. And so you had all these people coming into audiobooks and all these companies looking for new narrators. So, like, I had a mentor through the Audio Publishers Association, Hope Newhouse, who was really wonderful and, like, basically met with me over the course of 6 months, like, weekly, talking to me about, like, what's next on your radar, what should you work towards, etc. Like, I took classes. I got to take the Great Audiobook Adventure with Elise Arsenault and Acting for Audio with Joel Frumkin, because there were so many people in the space who were so positive and loving and able to share their experiences. And, all the people I've coached with in between as well. So I feel really, really fortunate in that regard, because as soon as we went from virtual to in person, it just felt like falling into community. And I remember going to that
Mm.
first like audiobook production conference and meeting all these people, and I was like, oh my God, this is my Woodstock. Like,
Yeah.
here's all these
I
You
love
people.
knew
it.
them.
Exactly. Like, from the two-dimensional screen to 3D in
Hmm.
person, like here's all these people who do the same thing I do, who love the same thing I love, and we get to like learn about it together, we get to share about it together. So I've really, really been fortunate in that regard, and it's impacted a lot of my time in terms of turning around and supporting the community. So the same mentorship program that I had where Hope Newhouse was my mentor, I went back and now I've mentored 9 people in that same program.
Oh,
Wow.
I'm now board chair of the Professional Audiobook Narrators Association, PANA, which is like a 700-member audiobook narrator association that does resources and classes and all these different things. Because I just love this space. I love this work. I love narrators and I love
you've
books.
gone full circle. I
Yeah,
love that. I
yeah.
love that. So you found your calling.
I think
It
so.
just, yeah, I
Do you,
love
do you
that.
have an agent? How do you find your books?
Yeah, it's so funny because audiobooks is not a space where we really use agents. So in other spaces, you're expected to have an agent in order to get like casting calls and things like that. But in audiobooks, most of the folks have email addresses that are available through an organization, or let's say there's an email address like you want to narrate books for Macmillan. There'll be an email address for Macmillan that you reach out to get considered for auditions. And so we actually have to know who all the producers are, and we're reaching out to them on a regular basis and developing relationships, recommending each other. Sometimes we're cast together on books or meeting each other at events. So it's a lot of that and getting auditions and offers rather than going through an agent typically.
Okay.
And
Okay. Well, that would
how
make
did you?
sense.
Yeah, so go ahead.
No, no,
We
no. I
always
was
talk
saying
over
that
each
makes
other.
sense.
Yeah.
How did you land the James Baldwin book? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh my gosh. So, the circumstance was this. I
Tell us
I
all of it.
I was
He
like
went into character.
I was like a week behind on recording something, and it overlapped with a trip I had to take the next week. And so my partner, he does like biomedical journalism. And so we were going to go to Louisiana for a conference, one of his conferences. And so he'd be at the conference during the day. And then in the evenings, like we'd go around and
Hang
see
out.
New Orleans.
Mhm.
And so this book is late. I'm not going to skip out on going to Louisiana. So I found a studio in Louisiana to record that book that week. So we're a couple days in. I'm sitting there recording. We take a lunch break, and I see I got an email request from Audible Studios to do an audition. And they're like, da da da, we've got these James Baldwin books. Like, can you submit this audition? Here's the text. I had read in college maybe 1 or 2 James Baldwin essays. So I knew of him kind of as this literary figure, but hadn't really like delved into his work before myself, especially not his fiction. And we came back from lunch, we recorded that audition, and it's the opening text of the book, the first part of the audition. And there is something about the way that man writes that shook me to my core in the time it took us to write that audition. There is something so like viscerally masterful about how he uses English to emote, how he creates a narrative voice, and it was palpable in those couple of pages of the audition. And I sent in that audition and I was like, this will be my favorite performance of my career if I get this book. That was May, and then nothing. Months pass. May, June, July comes. I email the producer and I'm like, hey, listen, if you've already cast this book, I get it. I'll go, but I'm just very excited and interested about it. Do you have an update about the casting? And they were like, yo, like it's taking us a while to cast these. Like I would sincerely just forget about this and move on with your life. And I'm like, heard. Okay. All right. All right.
What?
Heard.
Damn.
So July, August, September, I finally get an offer for it in September. Um, so excited to work on this. And so from September, we start recording in February. Like I said, 22 hours. It took us about 3 weeks to record it. And it was great in the studio. My director was Kevin R. Free, who's another fantastic audiobook narrator that I love. So his energy was awesome. And then here we were, like, working on a Black author's text, a Black engineer, a Black narrator, and a Black director, getting to
Wow.
be in this studio. It was so much fun. And at Audible, while we were recording it, so many people, Audible, if I understand correctly, won this kind of like bidding war to get 9 of these James Baldwin books that came up. So they were producing them all together. And there were so many people involved with that process at Audible, as well as they were onboarding a bunch of new employees, that there were constantly people coming into the like engineering room to come and listen to us record as we were going through, just to like kind of see a glimpse of this project that they had been working on. And it's such a cool collection. The series of 9 books that they have has a ton of really exciting narrators attached to it, and so it was just like a pleasure in that dimension. And then again, in the actual performance, was astounding. I don't know that I'm ever going to get to have an experience quite like working on that book. Not just because of the way James Baldwin like writes, but I think also the way that like we got to work in that room. That, you know, like I said, like we're typically alone at home, and here I was getting to be
Hmm.
in studio with the director, with an engineer. We really got to have conversations about like, how do we create this? Like, how do we shift, you know, structure and shift this specific story? Um, and this book, it follows Hall. He loses his brother. That's how the book opens. He learns that his brother has died. And we go back in time, and he tells us the story of basically his entire life, all the way up to the death of his brother. And it is so fantastically spun. It follows like other people in their orbit, including a family friend of theirs from childhood named Julia, who, from the age of like 7 or 8, she was a child preacher, like James Baldwin was when he was younger. And so this character Julia, like I got to spend hours doing, there's like 10-page long sermons that she does, this 9-year-old girl does in this book. And that was like thrilling to do. One,
Mm.
my God, doing that in a like in a continuous take, wow, was a time. Her sermons, like these pages of like deeply powerful internal thought from Hall, the main character, as he's like thinking about all the intricacies of even race and how that's showing up in his life in New York, and his background in the military, and his dynamics with his family, and his love for his brother. Because ultimately he becomes his brother's agent. His brother is like a gospel singer with this group of, you know, his young friends. And then when he gets older, Hall becomes his younger brother's agent. And so he is his agent when he hears that his brother has died in this way that's very like, you know, Star loses himself out in the world.
Hmm.
And it's so, especially considering that literally from the beginning of the book, he says, this is what happens. Now let's go through what happens. It's so powerful, James Baldwin's ability to like still make that narrative land, to string you through a scene where there's this one moment where he's following through the scene, and he's literally like, you know, it's 24 minutes until we lose him. It's 10 minutes until we lose him. And it's just a kind of compelling writing that I don't often get to work with something that dynamic and that exciting. I think like I've gotten to narrate Percival Everett before, who wrote
Yes.
James and
Yes.
Erased, that became American. Oh gosh.
Wait, you narrated James?
No, I did not narrate James. I
Oh,
narrated. He wrote another novel called uh, Percival Everett by Virgil Russell.
oh,
That is
Okay.
the title of the novel, is Percival
okay.
Everett by Virgil Russell. And so in the story, this man visits his father in a retirement home, and
Mhm.
his father says, I have written a story that I think you would have written if you wrote. And so we start to lose ourselves in this idea of like who even is the narrator. And there's so much literary play happening in there. Even the energy of, I've narrated a Brian Washington book before, and he's really like exploratory and like brings these reflections about art into the realities of all of his characters. Like I get to see, I think, the impact that James Baldwin as a precedent-setting author has had on different people I've worked with over the course of my career. And that is really powerful and compelling because it just makes me celebrate the authors and the writing that they bring to the work even more. So that it was like a really tremendous experience, and I'm really grateful we got to work on all of that. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. So, and that is actually coming out September 29th, right? That's the release date for it. And will
September.
it be just Audible or will it be an actual book? Like, is there a book coming out?
Yeah,
Like
so
a physical book?
the
Well, the
ebook
book has
and
been out since
physical,
1970 something.
yo, so
Oh, I see.
and so those
Okay.
are
Yeah.
going to be available, but then yeah, it's available for pre-order, and the audiobook is the new edition that they're releasing in September. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I figured it's, and you're okay.
If
I'm
only he was
following
still
through.
alive. Like,
No, too.
Well, I
how
did get to
amazing.
well, so as we went back to record pickups, and I did
Yeah.
get to meet his niece and nephews. So the
Mm,
estate is still handled by his family, and so they were there for a lunch. And then I recently went back to this Black Employee Network X Pride event that Audible did in June, where they got to talk with one of the other narrators about the audiobooks and kind of what this whole project has meant to them. And that's been really cool because they're so intentional about how they're handling his estate and the rights to his work, and really thinking about like what he would have wanted to accomplish in his lifetime and how they can continue that more so
right.
than, like, we have a famous relative and here we are in
Right.
charge of
Being
the
true
estate.
to his
Yeah,
vision.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's kind of crazy to me that it took so long too,
Mm,
that to put out the
And
audio for
that's
it.
the
yeah,
way it
yeah.
is.
This one is
Yeah.
actually, so they did have an audio for this specific one that I did, and so the rights lapsed on that one, and that was part of this bidding pool. So it's been
Mm.
available for a little bit, but I think like part of what I'm really excited about is that is getting to retell something. So many of the books that are coming out now, like the vast majority of those, they're recorded and done, and that's cool and great. A lot of them are really well done. But I think being able to like step up to bat to be able to tell a story like that, I felt was a huge privilege, and so I'm really, really excited that all of this happened.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
excited for you. I can't wait to listen to it.
Thank
That
Yeah,
you.
sounds
that's huge.
fantastic. So, what does your future hold now? What are
Oh
you excited
gosh.
about moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's plenty of things on the horizon. I feel really fortunate because I'm always doing like work in different spaces and different categories, so it always keeps things interesting. Like a few of the projects that I've really enjoyed recently have included getting to do this translation of a really popular novel in Brazil called The Secret Dinner, where a group of friends has to come up with rent money really quickly, and they end up, just by chance, hosting a cannibal dinner. And so it's a
What?
thriller about that set in like Rio de Janeiro. I am finishing up a series. It's a trilogy written by the author of Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and her brother,
Okay. Okay.
where it's a middle grade series where these kids get on this radio and they try to meet up with like the kids on the other side of the radio in the park. They go to the park, no one's there. The kids on the other side of the radio are like, "Why'd you stand us up?" And they're like, "No, why'd you stand us up?" Turns out the kids in 2023 are talking to kids in 1940, and they accidentally tell them how the West or the Allied nations won the war against Nazi Germany, and it leaks, and Nazi Germany takes over the U.S. And so they're
Oh
living in the
no.
present
Yeah.
with Nazi Germany taking over the U.S., having to figure out with the kids in the past how to undo it all. And so we're
Oh,
finishing up the third
That's
book in
interesting.
pretty
that
cool
series.
and also
Yeah.
intense.
Oh, very intense. And it's so,
Yeah.
I love when people treat children as like agentic and serious and able to handle a lot of
Love that.
challenging material. Because there is a lot to navigate in that, 100%. I love Kaysen Callender, who's an author I've done a few books for. Like King and the Dragonflies was a beautiful middle grade novel, heart-wrenching. And the reality is that so many like kids who are 12 are living through these moments, living through these challenges, and they want to get support and advice, and they want to be able to like navigate these things through storytelling. And I think there's a gap in that age group where we lose readers for a lifetime, because the storytelling at that age isn't diverse enough, isn't like representative enough. It doesn't treat them seriously enough, and I think they
Or
appreciate it.
challenge them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and a handful of other things, like The Great Outdoors was a recent release, which is about this woman who goes on this hiking trip to like prove to herself that like, you know, she can do it, she can be outdoorsy. And the guy who is leading the trip, a year before, got a call from his best friend one day. And the best friend was like, "Hey, by the way, I moved to South America with your girlfriend. Sorry." And now he has to lead this trip with this woman, and last minute swap in, his co-guide is going to be this ex-best friend who like left to South America with his girlfriend. So the three of them go on this week-long hiking trip. But it's just always, I feel really fortunate. It's just always like fun, varied. I get to tell stories to all different kinds of audiences. It's such a variety of things. I love, even in the nonfiction space, like I think there's some narrators who don't think of nonfiction as a space that you can perform in. But like if the author is writing in first person, and even if they're not, but like that's a performance to me. And I get to
Absolutely.
learn. Yeah. So there's just a lot of things that I feel like are kind of rolling through all the time that I'm really happy to be a part of. Yeah.
That is so exciting. Oh, that is so exciting. I
So,
love it. And I love that you get to learn about the books before most people,
Oh
because
yeah.
so many times, yeah. So
Yeah.
you'd be
yeah.
the one to say, okay, you got to read this one or forget about that one. I tried, but forget it.
So before we wrap our interview, do
Mm.
you have like one piece of advice, something that stands out in your mind for both someone who wants to become a narrator,
Yeah.
and to maybe an author, a debut author, or an author's been around who hasn't done audiobooks before? Any piece of advice for them as well?
Yeah. I think to narrators, my big thing that I love to think and talk about is that this is a fully lived in story. And that doesn't mean the same thing for every book. But I think sometimes someone comes to an audiobook for the first time and they're afraid to give a bigger performance. They think that, you know, they grew up in 2007 hearing audiobooks in this very specific, structured way, and you've got to read really slowly so that everyone. But I think that is, I'm not going to call it a shackle. I think that's too intense to call it a shackle. But I think it's a
So
choice.
yesterday.
It's a choice. It's a choice among all the rainbow of choices that you can make in audiobooks, and I think that people should really feel free to explore and experiment, because it's a surprisingly forgiving format, and so have fun. For authors, two thoughts. One is, and I'll only say this to the people for whom this is necessary advice, is read your own work out loud. There are like sometimes sentences that I encounter where like, and not necessarily because of intention, but they haven't kind of contended with what it means for that sentence to come out of a human mouth. And I like to think about it too. Like I have a long history of writing poetry and doing spoken word. And so I like to think about it too, about like what tools are you setting up for someone to understand your format in another medium? Because when you write a stage play or you write a screenplay, even if those never get produced as theater or film, that medium is kind of inherently linked to the formats that they get produced into. Books aren't the same as that. A lot of books don't get made into audiobooks, and a lot of authors don't write imagining an audiobook as well. And so what changes about your writing when you imagine that there's going to be an audiobook along with it? So imagine that. Yeah.
That's a great
That's
piece
great
of advice.
advice.
Because now Mercy and I are thinking about it like, whoa, because we love to write as well.
Wonderful.
Okay, well, how can our listeners and our viewers find you?
I love it. I am not the most active on social media, but I am on there. And probably the number one place to find me is on Instagram at Andre on the mic. And all my links are there. My email address is there, so people can connect with me, stay up to date. And I think that's the best way. Yeah.
And your website is andreonthemic.com, right?
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Beautiful. Oh, Andre, it's been such a pleasure listening to you. I mean, I could listen to you all day, all day. You'd think that you speak for a living.
It's been so fun being here with y'all. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Let's do one last cheers.
Yes, to
your
Andre.
Success.
Yes, and to James
And your
Baldwin.
book coming out. Yes,
All of
James
it.
Baldwin. Cheers.
Love it. I will be following you and listening to everything, so I want the real truth on the books. This is good one, and skip that one. We have to read a lot of books.
Perfect.
So, yes.
For real.
Thank you.
All right,
Andre.
everyone.
Love
Like,
it.
share, follow, check out Andre on the mic.
Absolutely. Bye,
Bye
guys.
now.